The server room was burning. Garrett Ashford's lungs filled with smoke as he stumbled through the corridor, his daughter Iris clutched against his chest, her small fingers digging into his jacket. Behind them, footsteps echoed heavy, purposeful, closing the distance. He didn't need to look back to know who was coming. Seraphine Cross had sent her best, and Cade Brennan never missed twice. Iris coughed, her 7-year-old body convulsing against his ribs. The sprinkler system had failed or been disabled, and the heat licked at the walls like something alive. Garrett's vision blurred as he rounded the corner, his shoulders slamming into the doorframe. The emergency exit was 20 feet away, red light glowing through the haze, impossibly distant. A figure stepped into the hallway ahead. White trench coat, silver hair pulled tight, face carved from marble and malice. Seraphine Cross raised her hand, and in it a pistol, small, elegant, deadly. Her other hand gripped an oxygen mask, tubes trailing to a portable tank strapped to her back. She looked like a ghost, already cancer eating her from the inside, but her eyes were sharp, focused, utterly calm. Her voice cut through the roar of flames. "Choose, Mr. Ashford, the truth or your daughter's life." Garrett froze. Iris trembled in his arms, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Behind him, Cade's shadow stretched across the burning floor. Trapped, cornered, no way out. The freeze frame locked everything in place, smoke curling, fire crackling, Seraphine's finger on the trigger. Then the image shattered, rewinding like film in reverse. To understand how a mechanic ended up here 3,000 miles from home with a billionaire's gun aimed at his child's skull, you need to go back. 3 months earlier. Seattle. Rain hammering the cracked pavement of an industrial district that smelled like rust and broken promises. Garrett had $287.43 in his checking account. He knew the exact amount because he'd checked it 11 times that day. Each glance at his phone confirming the same brutal math: rent was due in 8 days, $1,850, and he was $1,500 short. The auto shop where he worked, Ashford's Auto Repair, though the Ashford was more nostalgia than truth, now had seen 3 customers all week. 2 oil changes and a brake job, barely enough to cover the electric bill. He wiped grease from his hands onto a rag that had been white sometime in the previous decade, staring through the bay window at the rain. 9:47 at night. The hydraulic lifts stood silent, empty. The concrete floor was stained with decades of oil, sweat, and failure. His reflection in the window looked older than 42 had any right to be. Lines around his eyes deep enough to hide secrets, hair graying at the temples, shoulders carrying weight that had nothing to do with muscle. Iris was at her cousin's house for a sleepover. Rare gift, that. A night alone meant he could sit in the silence without pretending everything was fine, without forcing smiles when his daughter asked questions he couldn't answer. Questions like why they ate canned soup 4 nights a week, or why the fridge made that rattling sound, or why Daddy still wore Mommy's wedding ring 3 years after the funeral. He locked the front door, flipped the sign to closed, and pulled his hood up against the deluge. The Ford pickup in the lot was older than Iris, rust eating through the wheel wells, but it started on the second try. Small victory. He sat there for a moment, engine idling, watching rain streak the windshield, trying to remember when life had felt like something other than endurance. The alley behind the shop was where he dumped the trash. 2 dumpsters, both overflowing because the collection company had raised prices and he'd canceled service to save $60 a month. He grabbed the last bag from inside, pushed through the back door into the downpour, and that's when he saw it. At first, just a shape. Dark fabric against darker brick, crumpled near the dumpster like discarded clothing. Then it moved, a shiver, violent and small. Garrett stopped. Keys in one hand, trash bag in the other. The neighborhood wasn't safe. Drug deals happened 2 streets over. Stolen cars got stripped for parts in warehouses down by the waterfront. He'd learned to keep his head down, mind his business, survive. But the shape moved again, and this time he heard it. A sound like breaking glass wrapped in human vocal cords. Fear distilled. He dropped the trash bag, took 3 steps forward. The motion sensor light above the alley flickered on, bathing everything in sickly yellow. It was a child. A girl, maybe 6 years old, huddled against the brick wall with her knees pulled to her chest. She was soaked through, hair plastered to her skull, clothes clinging to skin that looked too pale, almost translucent in the harsh light. But it wasn't her posture that stopped Garrett's heart. It was what she was wearing. Blue velvet dress. Expensive, the kind with hand-stitched lace at the collar and cuffs. White tights now gray with alley filth. Patent leather shoes that probably cost more than Garrett made in a week. She looked like she'd been ripped out of a museum portrait and dropped into hell. Garrett crouched down, hands raised, palms empty. His voice came out rougher than he intended. Hey kiddo, you okay?" The girl's head snapped up, eyes wide blue like deep water filled with terror so profound it felt physical. She didn't speak, just stared, shaking so hard her teeth chattered audibly even through the rain. Garrett scanned the alley. Empty. No parents, no cars, no explanation. Just a little girl in the rain dressed like royalty looking at him like he was the monster. He softened his voice the way he did when Iris woke from nightmares. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name's Garrett. I work right here, see? That's my shop." The girl's eyes flicked past him to the garage, then back to his face. She clutched something to her chest, a stuffed rabbit matted and filthy, gripped so tight her knuckles were bone white. Garrett tried again. "Where are your parents?" She shook her head, fast, desperate. A bad feeling crawled up Garrett's spine, the kind that came with pattern recognition. The bruise on her neck faint but visible even in the poor light. The way she flinched when he moved. The dress that screamed money in a neighborhood where poverty was the only constant. Something was very, very wrong. He slipped off his canvas jacket, ignoring the rain soaking through his shirt immediately. Draped it over her shoulders. She flinched violently at the contact, a full-body recoil, but didn't pull away. The jacket swallowed her sleeves, hanging past her hands. Garrett kept his voice low, calm. "I can't leave you out here. It's freezing. You'll get sick. I'm going to pick you up, okay? Take you somewhere warm. Then we figure out where you belong." She didn't answer, didn't nod. But she didn't run either. He lifted her carefully, expecting her to weigh nothing. She was so small, so fragile-looking. But she was heavier than she should have been, dense in a way that felt wrong, like holding a sack of sand shaped like a child. That's when he noticed the bracelet. Platinum. Thick, seamless, no clasp visible. Engraved along the surface in precise lettering, Project Nightingale, Unit 14. Below that, a serial number SN-4782-Cross-BIO. Garrett's hands tightened involuntarily. The girl whimpered and he forced himself to relax his grip. Whatever this was, whoever she was terrified. That came first. He carried her to the truck, settled her in the passenger seat, cranked the heater to maximum. She stared straight ahead, catatonic, clutching the rabbit. Rain drummed on the roof. The engine rumbled. Garrett's mind raced through options, none of them good. He reached for his phone. Dialed the first 3 digits, 911. The girl's hand shot out, grabbed his wrist. Her fingers were ice-cold, impossibly strong for someone so small. She shook her head frantically, eyes locked on his, and for the first time she spoke. One word rasped out like her throat had forgotten how to form sound. "No." Garrett froze. The phone screen glowed in the dark cab waiting. The girl's voice cracked. "She'll find me. Don't call. Please." Every instinct screamed at him to call anyway. Kid in distress. No parent's bruises clearly in danger. This was textbook, but the fear in her eyes wasn't manipulation. It was survival. Garrett lowered the phone. His voice came out quieter than he intended. "Who's she?" The girl's grip on his wrist loosened. She slumped back against the seat, eyes closing, and whispered one more word before falling silent. "Architect." Garrett didn't know what that meant, but the chill that ran down his spine had nothing to do with the rain soaking through his shirt. He drove home. Kept checking the rearview mirror for headlights that weren't there. Told himself he was being paranoid. Told himself she was just a scared kid with an overactive imagination. He had no idea that by the time he turned the key to his apartment, a satellite in low orbit had already triangulated the signal from the platinum bracelet on her wrist. The clock was ticking. Garrett's apartment was a second-floor walk-up in a complex called The Pines, though the last pine tree had died in the 90s, poisoned by exhaust fumes and neglect. The place was clean, but cluttered toys scattered on the carpet, half-finished homework on the coffee table. A bulletin board covered in Iris's crayon drawings of horses and rainbows and families with 3 stick figures instead of 4. He set the girl down on the sofa. She sat rigid, staring at the blank TV screen, hands folded in her lap with mechanical precision. The stuffed rabbit lay beside her, button eyes reflecting lamplight. Garrett busied himself in the kitchen, trying to project calm he didn't feel. Grilled cheese in the pan, hot chocolate in the microwave. Normal things. Safe things. While the bread sizzled, he pulled out his phone again, opened the browser, typed Project Nightingale. Nothing. A Crimean War reference, a Florence Nightingale biography, A hospital foundation. Nothing about bracelets or serial numbers or little girls in velvet dresses. He tried Cross Bio. The screen filled with results. Cross Biotech, headquartered in San Francisco. Market cap $47 billion. Specialties, genetic research, regenerative medicine, bioengineering. CEO Dr. Seraphine Cross, 68, featured in Forbes Time Wired. Pioneering work in consciousness. Transfer stem cell therapy. Life extension. Garrett's stomach turned. He scrolled further. Found a 3-year-old news article. Cross family tragedy, CEO's granddaughter dies in drowning accident. The photo showed a woman in black silver hair, sunglasses, hiding her eyes, standing beside a tiny casket. The caption read, Dr. Seraphine Cross mourns the loss of Celeste Cross, age 3, who drowned at the family estate on Lake Washington. Garrett looked through the kitchen doorway at the girl on his sofa. She couldn't be more than 6 now. If the child in the article died 3 years ago... He closed the browser, served the grilled cheese on a plate with cartoon characters Iris had picked out at a garage sale, brought it to the living room along with the hot chocolate. The girl looked at the food, then at him. Her voice was small but clear. "What's your name?" Garrett sat in the chair across from her, keeping distance. Non-threatening. "Garrett. Garrett Ashford. What's yours?" She hesitated. Then, Celeste. The name hit him like cold water. The same name from the article. The dead girl. He kept his voice steady. "That's a pretty name. Celeste, are you hungry?" She nodded, picked up the sandwich with both hands and took a bite. Chewed slowly, methodically, swallowing with effort. Not like a hungry child. Like someone following a protocol. Garrett watched her eat, mind spinning. The bruise on her neck was clearer now under the apartment lights. Yellowish, a week old maybe. And beneath the collar of her dress, he could see the edge of something white, a bandage covering something at the base of her skull. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Celeste, I need to know where you came from. Who's looking for you?" She set the sandwich down. Her blue eyes met his, and for a moment she looked ancient. Tired in a way no child should be. Her voice was flat empty. "I came from a tank. The architect made me. I escaped because a woman helped me. They killed her." Garrett's mouth went dry. He didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know if it was trauma delusion or something worse. Before he could respond, headlights swept across the living room window. He stood crossed to the blinds, peered through the slats. A van, white unmarked, parked across the street with the engine running. Too clean for this neighborhood. Too deliberate. Garrett's pulse kicked into high gear. He let the blinds fall, turned back to Celeste. "Did anyone follow you before you got to the alley?" She shook her head, but her hands were trembling again. Garrett grabbed his phone, dialed his sister. 3 rings, then... "Garrett, it's almost 11. Is Iris okay?" Detective Wren Ashford's voice was sharp, alert. Cop instincts never slept. Garrett kept his voice low. "Iris is fine. She's still at the sleepover. Wren, I need help. I found a kid. Little girl, maybe 6, behind my shop. She's terrified. Says someone's after her." Silence on the line. Then, "You need to bring her to the station. Right now." Garrett glanced at Celeste. She was staring at him, eyes wide, shaking her head slowly. He turned away, lowered his voice further. "She begged me not to call the cops. Wren, I think something bad happened to her. Really bad." Wren's tone shifted professional now. "Garrett, listen to me. If you have a minor in your house and you don't report it, that's kidnapping, especially with your record." The record. A joyride when he was 17, 25 years ago, but it never went away. Just sat there on background checks, a ghost of stupid youth. Garrett's jaw tightened. "She said someone called the architect is looking for her. Mean anything to you?" Pause. Then, "No. Sounds like something from a movie. Look, I'm coming over. Don't open the door for anyone else. If she's a runaway from a high-profile family, there might be private security sweeping the area. They can be aggressive." The line went dead. Garrett pocketed the phone, returned to the living room. Celeste hadn't moved. The sandwich sat half-eaten on the plate. She was looking at something on the mantel, a framed photo of Iris' school picture day, missing front tooth, gap-toothed grin. Celeste's voice was soft. "Is she safe?" Garrett followed her gaze. "That's my daughter, Iris. Yeah, she's safe. She's not here tonight." Celeste nodded slowly. Something in her posture relaxed just a fraction. "Good. They shouldn't hurt her. She's not part of this. The way she said it, clinical detached, made Garrett's skin crawl. He sat back down. Celeste, who are they? Who hurt you? She looked at him for a long moment, weighing something. Then she reached up with both hands and peeled back the collar of her dress. The bandage was there, white medical tape covering something at the nape of her neck. She pulled it away slowly. Underneath was a port, circular metallic embedded directly into her skin. It looked like a USB connector fused with human tissue, red and inflamed around the edges. Garrett's breath caught. He'd seen medical implants before, pacemaker scars, cochlear implant sites. But this was different. This was invasive, deliberate, designed for data transfer. Celeste let the bandage fall back into place. I'm not like other children. I was grown in a lab. Built. My bones are reinforced with carbon lattice. My brain has synthetic components to process faster. They put memories in me, memories of a girl who died. Her name was Seraphine Cross. She loved horses and the color yellow. She drowned when she was 3. She paused, eyes glistening. But I remember other things too. I remember waking up in a tank. I remember needles. I remember the architect standing outside the glass looking at me like I was a product on a shelf. Not a person, just inventory. Garrett couldn't breathe, couldn't process. This was insane. Bioengineering, consciousness transfer, human experimentation. This was science fiction, conspiracy theory territory. But the port in her neck was real. The bracelet was real. The fear in her eyes was real. Celeste's voice dropped to a whisper. There were others before me. 13 others. They all had glitches. They cried, or they refused orders, or they asked questions. So the architect decommissioned them. That means she killed them. Garrett's hands curled into fists. He didn't want to believe her. Every rational part of his brain screamed that this was impossible, that she was a traumatized kid with an elaborate story, that there had to be another explanation. But the look in her eyes wasn't delusion. It was truth. He leaned forward. Celeste, who is the architect, give me a name. She opened her mouth to answer. A low hum vibrated through the floor. Deep mechanical, growing louder. Garrett stood crossed to the window again. His blood turned to ice. 3 black SUVs, Cadillac Escalades, massive and sleek, pulling into the parking lot below. Tinted windows, no license plates. They moved with precision, blocking the exits surrounding the building. Doors opened. Men poured out, 8, 10, 12, dressed in dark rain gear, tactical vests visible underneath. They carried weapons, not handguns, rifles, AR platform, military grade. This wasn't police. This wasn't even legal. Garrett spun toward Celeste. Get away from the window, now! She was already moving, sliding off the sofa, retreating behind it with practiced speed. She'd done this before. Heavy footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Multiple boots ascending fast. Garrett grabbed his phone, dialed Wren again. It went straight to voicemail. He tried 911. The line connected, but before he could speak, it cut off. Dead air. They were jamming signals. The footsteps reached the 2nd floor, stopped outside his door. Then a voice, amplified, calm, emotionless. Mr. Ashford, we know you have the asset. Open the door, and no one gets hurt. Garrett's mind raced. Asset. Not child, not girl. Asset. He looked around the apartment. No back exit. 2nd floor windows overlooking a 15-foot drop to concrete. He had a wrench on the kitchen counter from work still sitting there. Laughable defense against assault rifles. He grabbed it anyway. The voice continued. We are private security for the Cross family. We have legal authority to retrieve proprietary technology. You are interfering with corporate property recovery. This is your only warning. Garrett's voice came out hoarse. She's a child, not property. Silence. Then, we own the police, Mr. Ashford. We own the judges. We own this city. Open the door, or we open it for you. Garrett looked at Celeste. She was pressed against the wall behind the sofa, arms wrapped around the stuffed rabbit eyes squeezed shut. Shaking. He thought about Iris, safe at her cousin's house. Thank God for that. If she'd been here... The door exploded. Not picked, not unlocked. Exploded. A battering ram hit it dead center, and the frame splintered like kindling. The door swung inward, hanging off one hinge, and 4 men filled the doorway. They were enormous, 6 feet plus, built like linebackers, tactical vests over expensive suits. Professionals. the kind of professionals governments hired for black ops. Garrett raised the wrench. His voice shook. "Stay back." They didn't advance. Instead, they stepped aside, creating a corridor. A woman walked through. She was tall, nearly 6 feet, wrapped in a white trench coat that didn't have a single spot of rain despite the weather. Her hair was silver blonde, pulled back in a severe bun. Her face was beautiful in the way marble statues are beautiful, perfect, cold, utterly lifeless. She looked like she'd been carved from ice by someone who'd forgotten what warmth felt like. This was Seraphine Cross. Garrett had seen her face before on Forbes covers and TED Talk stages and the news article about the dead granddaughter. But in person she was something else, something that made his hindbrain scream predator. She didn't look at him. Her gray eyes went straight to Celeste and her expression softened. Just for a moment. Then it hardened again. Her voice was cultured, smooth, devastatingly calm. "Hello, Unit 14. Celeste's eyes flew open. "My name is Celeste." Seraphine tilted her head, studying the girl like a scientist examining a specimen. "We corrected that error in version 12. Apparently not thoroughly enough." She finally turned her attention to Garrett, looked him up and down, taking in the grease-stained shirt, the cheap apartment, the wrench clutched in his hand. Her expression didn't change, but he felt the dismissal like a physical weight. Seraphine pulled a tablet from her coat pocket, tapped the screen twice, then turned it to face Garrett. "Mr. Ashford, you have my property. I'm willing to compensate you for the inconvenience. $500,000 wired to your account immediately. All you have to do is step aside." The screen showed a bank transfer form already filled out. His account number was there. Accurate. They'd done their homework. Garrett's grip tightened on the wrench. "She's not property. She's a child." Seraphine smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Is she?" "Tell me, Mr. Ashford, do you know why she has no fingerprints? Why her retinal pattern doesn't match any database? Why she can access wireless networks with her mind?" Garrett said nothing. Seraphine tapped the tablet again. A video played. Lab footage time-stamped 3 years ago. A stasis tank filled with blue liquid. Inside, suspended in the fluid, a small figure. Growing. Accelerating. Bones forming organs, developing brain tissue, expanding and fast-forward. Impossible biology compressed into weeks instead of years. Seraphine's voice was quiet. "That is Unit 14, grown in my laboratory from stem cells extracted from my granddaughter's body before she died, augmented with synthetic neural tissue to accelerate cognitive development. Programmed with memory engrams extracted from Celeste's brain scan taken hours before her death." She paused, letting it sink in. "I buried my granddaughter 3 years ago, Mr. Ashford. I mourned her. The world mourned her. But I'm a scientist. Grief is simply a problem to be solved." Garrett felt sick. He looked at Celeste. She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Seraphine continued, "Unit 14 was designed to be the perfect child. Obedient. Brilliant. Immortal in a sense. But she's malfunctioning. She's developed emotional responses, independent thought, fear. That makes her unstable. Dangerous." She stepped closer. Garrett raised the wrench higher. She didn't flinch. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm taking her back to the lab for decommissioning. You can accept the money and forget this happened, or you can refuse and my men will remove you from the equation. Either way, I leave here with my property." Garrett looked down at Celeste. She looked up at him, tears on her cheeks, and mouthed 2 words, "Please, help." Something broke inside him. Or maybe something finally clicked into place. He tightened his grip on the wrench and met Seraphine's eyes. "You're not taking her." Seraphine sighed, checked the time on her watch, diamond-studded, worth more than Garrett's car, then nodded to the man on her right. Her voice was tired. "Kill him. Retrieve the asset. Burn the apartment." The man raised his rifle. The command hung in the air like toxic smoke. "Kill him." The lead mercenary's finger moved toward the trigger muscle memory, taking over a job like any other. Garrett braced himself, wrench raised in a gesture that felt both defiant and futile. Behind the sofa, Celeste's breathing came in short, desperate gasps. Then she screamed. Not words. A code. Her voice cracked with the force of it. "Protocol 0. The platinum bracelet erupted with sound, a high-pitched whine that climbed beyond human hearing, then crashed back down into a sonic pulse that hit the apartment like a shockwave. The overhead lights exploded in sequence, glass raining down in crystalline shards. Every electronic device in the room died simultaneously, TV microwaved the digital clock on the wall, freezing at 11:47. The mercenaries staggered. Their tactical headsets, wired for communication and targeting, screeched with feedback so loud Garrett heard it from 6 feet away. 3 of the 4 men dropped to their knees, hands clawing at their ears, weapons clattering to the floor. Their smart rifles, networked, computerized, dependent on software, went dark, targeting lasers flickering out like dying stars. But the lead man was different, older, harder, wearing analog gear. He switched to a sidearm in one fluid motion, a 1911 pistol that didn't care about electromagnetic pulses. Raised it toward Garrett. Garrett swung the wrench, connected with the man's wrist. Bone cracked. The gun went wide, discharged into the ceiling, plaster dust raining down like snow. Garrett didn't think. Moved on instinct. Grabbed Celeste from behind the sofa, her weight impossibly dense against his chest, and bolted for the hallway. Behind them, Seraphine's voice cut through the chaos, cold and precise. "Seal the exits. They won't get far." The stairwell was chaos. Residents emerging from apartments, confused, scared, drawn by the explosion and gunfire. Garrett shoved through them. Celeste clutched tight, taking the stairs 3 at a time. 2nd floor to 1st in seconds. But the front entrance was blocked, 2 more men in tactical gear, rifles up, scanning for targets. Celeste's voice was calm, clinical, terrifying in its composure. "Basement, laundry chute exits to the rear alley dumpsters. You have 40 seconds before they triangulate our position." Garrett didn't question how she knew. Veered left, kicked open the basement access door. The stairs down were narrow concrete, lit by a single flickering bulb. He descended into darkness that smelled of mildew and old detergent. The laundry room was cramped, washers and dryers lining the walls like sleeping giants. The service chute was in the corner, metal hatch barely 2 feet wide, used by maintenance to dump garbage bags into the exterior dumpster below. Garrett yanked it open. "You first. Go." Celeste didn't hesitate. Climbed in, disappeared down the chute in a rush of metal, scraping against metal. Garrett squeezed in after her, shoulders barely fitting the space, crushing and claustrophobic. The slide down was fast, disorienting, and he hit the dumpster below, hard garbage bags cushioning the impact, but not enough to prevent the air from blasting out of his lungs. Celeste was already climbing out, moving with speed and precision no 6-year-old should possess. Garrett followed, hauling himself over the edge, dropping into the alley. Rain hammered down, soaking them instantly. The night was alive with searchlights sweeping the building, shouts echoing, engines revving. A car screeched to a stop at the alley entrance. Garrett spun, fists raised, ready to fight. The driver's side door flew open. Wren Ashford stepped out, service weapon drawn, scanning the alley with cop eyes that missed nothing. Her voice was sharp, urgent. "Get in, now!" Garrett didn't argue. Grabbed Celeste, dove into the back seat. Wren was moving before he closed the door, unmarked sedan fishtailing as she floored the accelerator. Behind them, the apartment building lit up with orange light. Flames licking out of Garrett's 2nd-floor window, spreading fast. Wren's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "I called it in. Dispatch said there's a federal hold on your address. Someone buried the call, Garrett. No units are coming. We're on our own." Garrett twisted in his seat, watching his life burn. Everything he owned. Photos of Vivian, their wedding, Iris's baby pictures. The urn with his wife's ashes sitting on the mantel. The drawings, the memories, the last physical remnants of a family that used to be 4. All of it consumed by fire, meant to erase evidence. Celeste's voice was small, hollow. "I'm sorry. This is my fault." Garrett looked at her. Soaked, shivering mascara from the explosion smeared across her cheeks, she looked exactly like what she was, a terrified child. Engineered or not, artificial or not, she was scared and alone and hurting. His voice came out rougher than he intended. "You didn't burn my home. They did." Wren ran a red light, swerved onto the interstate, heading south. "Where's Iris?" Garrett's chest tightened. "Sleep over at Jenny's house." Wren was already on her radio, calling in a favor. "This is Detective Ashford, badge 774. I need a welfare check and protective custody pickup. Juvenile age 7, location." She rattled off the address, then added, "Extreme danger. Do not engage any private security. Armed response authorized." The radio crackled. A voice Garrett didn't recognize. "Copy that, detective. Unit en route. ETA 6 minutes." Wren clicked off. Met Garrett's eyes in the rearview mirror. "They'll take her to Dad's cabin. Cascade Mountains. Off-grid. No cell service, roads not on any map. She'll be safe." Garrett nodded, throat too tight to speak. Iris was safe. That was all that mattered. Wren's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then quickly silenced it. Garrett caught the gesture in the mirror, too fast, too deliberate. His gut twisted, but he said nothing. Wren's eyes shifted to Celeste. "All right, kid, start talking. Who are you really?" Celeste's response was mechanical, rehearsed. "Unit 14, Project Nightingale. Biosynthetic construct designed for consciousness integration. Market value $4.2 billion. Wren nearly drove off the road. She corrected, jaw set. "You're telling me you're worth more than a small country's GDP?" Celeste's laugh was bitter wrong coming from a child. "I'm telling you I'm not a person. I'm an investment, and Dr. Cross protects her investments." The sedan's headlights cut through rain and darkness as they fled south on Interstate 5, leaving Seattle and its burning ruins behind. Garrett stared out the window at the city lights, fading, mind struggling to process. 20 minutes ago he'd been a mechanic with money problems. Now he was a fugitive with a $4 billion secret bleeding in his back seat. They drove for an hour in tense silence. Wren's phone buzzed twice more. Each time she ignored it. Each time Garrett's suspicion grew. At 1:23 a.m. headlights appeared behind them. Not following. Gaining. Wren's eyes flicked to the mirror. "We've got company." 2 motorcycles, matte gray, weaving through sparse traffic with predatory precision. The riders wore black helmets, no visible identification. Not cops, not cross-security uniforms. Celeste sat up, eyes focusing. "Bounty hunters. The 15 million. They tracked us through toll booth cameras." Garrett's hands curled into fists. "How many?" Celeste closed her eyes, accessing something invisible. 2 on bikes. 1 pickup truck, 3 occupants half-mile back. More incoming from South Cross has activated every mercenary contractor within 200 miles. Wren cursed, floored the accelerator. The sedan lurched forward, engine screaming, but the bikes were faster. The first biker pulled alongside passenger side, raised a compact submachine gun. Garrett grabbed Celeste, shoved her down. "Stay low!" Bullets stitched across the door, punching through thin metal, embedding in upholstery. The window exploded, safety glass showering the back seat. Wren jerked the wheel left side, swiping the motorcycle. Sparks showered the highway as metal ground against metal. The biker wobbled but held his line trigger still pressed. Celeste's hand shot out, touching the sedan's center console. Her eyes glowed faintly, neural interface activating. The radio speakers shrieked with feedback so loud it was physical. The biker's helmet comm system overloaded. He released the handlebars to claw at his head. The motorcycle cartwheeled, tumbling into the ditch in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Wren's voice was tight. "1 down. What about number 2? The second biker had learned. Stayed back out of sideswiping range. But he was faster, more skilled. He accelerated, pulling ahead of the sedan, then cut across their path. Wren had 2 choices: hit him or swerve into oncoming traffic. She chose neither. Slammed the brakes. The sedan's tires screamed, smoke billowing. The biker overshot momentum, carrying him forward. Wren cranked the wheel, executed a controlled J-turn that would have failed any police driving test but worked perfectly on an empty highway. They were facing backward now, engine idling. The biker realized too late. Turned his bike around, started accelerating back toward them. Wren shifted into drive, floored it. Played chicken with a motorcycle. The biker's nerve broke first. Swerved right, clipped the guardrail, went over the side into a 40-foot ravine. Garrett's heart hammered. 2 down. What about the truck? As if summoned, headlights blazed in the mirror. Pickup truck lifted with a reinforced push bar on the front. 3 silhouettes visible in the cab. The truck rammed them from behind. Garrett's head snapped forward, then back, whiplash making his vision blur. Celeste cried out, thrown against the seatbelt. Wren fought for control as the truck rammed them again and again, trying to force them off the road. Celeste's voice was weak. "Exit ramp, 300 meters, mountain pass, narrow roads, truck too wide to follow." Wren saw it. Exit 147, barely visible through rain. She waited until the last possible second, then cranked the wheel hard right. The sedan's tires howled in protest. They fishtailed onto the ramp at 60 miles per hour, missing the guardrail by inches. The pickup truck tried to follow. Too late, too fast, too heavy. It clipped the exit ramp barrier, overcorrected, rolled 3 times. Came to rest upside down, wheels still spinning. Wren didn't slow down. Took the mountain pass at speeds that made Garrett's stomach drop. Switchbacks and blind curves, sheer drops on one side, rock face on the other. After 20 minutes of white-knuckle driving, she finally eased off the gas. The road had leveled out, civilization returning in the form of a shuttered gas station. Wren pulled in, killed the engine. Her hands were shaking. Garrett checked Celeste. Blood from her nose had resumed, darker now, thicker. Her skin looked gray in the dashboard light. Wren's voice was hollow. "How many more are coming?" Celeste's response was barely audible. "All of them. Every hunter between Seattle and San Francisco. The bounty's too high. They won't stop." Garrett's phone powered off since Seattle buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. 17 missed calls from unknown numbers. 12 voicemails. All of them probably hunters trying to negotiate, threaten, triangulate. He powered it back off, crushed it under his boot. Wren was staring at her own phone. The screen showed another missed call. Same number as before. Garrett's voice was quiet. "Who keeps calling you?" Wren's hand tightened on the phone. "Old partner. Probably worried. It's nothing." But she wouldn't meet his eyes. The suspicion crystallized into certainty. Garrett leaned forward. "Wren, look at me." She did. And in her eyes he saw guilt. Before he could push, headlights swept across the gas station. A silver Prius pulled up and a woman stepped out. Mid-30s, dark hair and a practical ponytail, leather jacket worn from use. She carried a laptop bag and moved with the cautious energy of someone used to being followed. Hollis Bennett didn't waste time on introductions. Slid into the passenger seat, opened her laptop. "Let me see the bracelet." Celeste held out her wrist. Hollis produced a scanner, ran it over the platinum band. Data flooded the screen. Hollis whistled low. "Serial number matches. This is real. You actually found one of them." Garrett's voice was rough. "Found one what?" Hollis looked up, expression haunted. "Proof. I've been chasing ghosts for 2 years. Interviews with lab techs who disappeared, financial records that got buried, 14 dead-end leads about children who shouldn't exist." She turned the laptop screen toward them. Files, hundreds of them, organized in folders labeled Nightingale Project, Confidential. Hollis's voice was bitter. "Seraphine Cross has been building synthetic humans for 3 years, testing consciousness transfer protocols, trying to achieve digital immortality. She's killed 13 children in the process, and the world thinks she's a saint." Celeste's voice was soft. 14. I'm number 14. Hollis's eyes widened. "You're alive. You escaped." She pulled up another file. Medical records. Seraphine Cross, age 68, diagnosis. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer, metastatic, inoperable. Prognosis, 6 months. Garrett's breath caught. "She's dying." Hollis nodded. "And desperate. The consciousness transfer protocol was never about resurrection. It's about giving Seraphine a new body. Young, enhanced, immortal." Celeste's voice cracked. "She wants to erase me, upload herself, kill me from the inside." Wren's face went pale. Her phone buzzed again. This time she answered, stepping out of the car. Through the window, Garrett watched her pace, speaking in low tones. The conversation was brief, tense. When she returned, her expression was carefully neutral. Garrett didn't press. Not yet. Hollis pulled out a flash drive. "I've got a dead man's switch. If I don't check in every 12 hours, everything I've collected auto-publishes to 50 news outlets worldwide." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "There's something else you need to know. About why your wife died." Garrett's world tilted. Hollis opened another file. An internal Cross Biotech memo dated 3 years and 2 months ago. Subject line: security breach, Nightingale audit leak. The email was clinical cold. Employee V. Ashford accessed restricted financial files related to Project Nightingale. FBI contact confirmed. Recommend immediate containment. Authorization S. Cross. Status resolved. Resolved? The word punched through Garrett's chest like a bullet. Hollis continued, voice gentle. "Your wife discovered the project. The 13 dead children. The illegal experiments. She tried to stop it." Garrett couldn't breathe. The pieces he'd kept separate, locked in different compartments, suddenly slammed together. Celeste's hand found his. "There's more. Security footage from the lab. 3 years ago." Hollis pulled up a video file. Grainy night vision, time-stamped 11:47 p.m. The footage showed a woman in a lab coat, Vivian Younger alive, standing beside a stasis tank. Inside the tank, a small figure floated in blue liquid. Unit 7, the file noted. Vivian's hand held a syringe, but her face was twisted with anguish, tears streaming. Audio crackled. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, but you deserve freedom, not this." She inserted the syringe into the tank's injection port. But before she could press the plunger, alarm shrieked. Security flooded in. Vivian ran. The footage cut to another camera. Parking lot. Vivian sprinting to her car, laptop clutched to her chest. Cut to her car on a mountain road, brake lights flaring. Then nothing. The brakes had failed. The car careened over the edge. The video ended. Garrett's vision blurred. His wife, his Vivian. Not paranoid, not imagining threats, fighting a war he'd been too blind to see, and he'd called her crazy. His voice came out broken. "She begged me to leave Seattle, to run, and I chose my paycheck over her safety." Celeste squeezed his hand. "She died trying to free Unit 7. Dr. Cross told her people Vivian was trying to murder a child. But the syringe wasn't lethal. It was a sedative. She was trying to sneak Unit 7 out." Hollis closed the laptop. Unit 7 was terminated 6 hours later. Unit 2 Your wife's car went off the road 90 minutes after she fled the lab. Brake lines were cut. Police ruled it corrosion, but the mechanic's original report said tool marks were visible. She pulled out a document. Police report Seattle PD, signed by the investigating officer, Detective Ren Ashford. Garrett's blood turned to ice. He looked through the windshield. Ren stood 20 feet away, back-turned phone pressed to her ear. Hollis's voice was quiet. "I'm sorry, but you need to know who you can trust." Garrett got out of the car, walked toward his sister. Each step felt like wading through concrete. Ren heard him approach, ended the call quickly. Too quickly. Garrett's voice was ice. "Who was that?" Ren's face was neutral. "Former partner, checking in." Garrett held up the police report, rain already soaking through the paper. "You closed Vivian's case in 72 hours, ruled it accidental, signed off personally." Ren's mask cracked, just for a second. Long enough. Garrett continued, voice rising. "How much did they pay you?" Ren's shoulders sagged. 50,000. Gambling debts. I was drowning, Garrett. They offered me a lifeline." The words hit like physical blows. Garrett's voice shook. "My wife. You helped them kill my wife." Ren's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know, I swear to God. I thought it was just corporate fraud, some accounting scandal they wanted buried. When I found out what really happened, it was too late. I've been trying to protect you ever since. Why do you think I'm here now?" Garrett wanted to scream, wanted to hit her, wanted to collapse. Instead, his voice went cold. "Get in the car. We finish this. Then you turn yourself in." Ren nodded, broken. They drove south through the night. Oregon gave way to Northern California. The sun rose over mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold that felt obscene. No one spoke. Somewhere near Redding, they stopped at another gas station. Hollis made a call arranged for the vehicle swap Garrett had requested. 30 minutes later, a 1985 Chevy van arrived, rust and primer bullet holes poorly patched, but zero electronics. They transferred. The van smelled like motor oil and stale tobacco, but the engine was solid. As they pulled back onto the highway, Celeste's hand found Garrett's again. "Why are you still helping me?" Garrett looked down at her, saw his daughter's face, saw Vivian's determination, saw 13 children who'd begged for mercy and received none. His voice was quiet. "Because my daughter lost her mother. I won't let another kid lose their chance at life." Celeste's grip tightened. "Even though it cost your wife everything." Garrett's throat closed. He nodded. Celeste whispered, "Then I'll make it worth it. I promise." Hours passed. The landscape shifted from forests to scrubland to coastal mountains. San Francisco appeared through the haze, glass towers reflecting dying sunlight. Hollis broke the silence. "There's someone who can help. Dr. Miriam Calloway. She designed Celeste, worked for Cross for 15 years before her conscience caught up." She opened a video call on her laptop. The connection was choppy, routed through multiple proxies. A woman's face appeared, 50s gray hair, eyes haunted by things she couldn't unsee. Miriam's voice was hollow. "You found one. You actually found one alive." Hollis nodded. "Unit 14. She needs our help." Miriam looked at Celeste through the screen, and her face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I did to your sisters." Celeste's voice was small. "You killed them." Miriam's tears fell freely. Unit 13. She was 6 years old, developed emotional responses, started asking questions about consciousness, death purpose. Dr. Cross ordered decommissioning. I injected the solution myself. She paused, reliving it. She looked at me, said, "Please, Dr. Calloway, I want to live." And I killed her anyway because I was afraid of what Cross would do if I refused. The screen showed Miriam's location somewhere in Nevada desert, stark and empty. Garrett's voice was rough. "Can you help us get into Cross Tower?" Miriam wiped her eyes. "I have access codes, security schedules, building blueprints. Cross thinks I deleted, but if we fail, if she catches us..." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Promise me, if this goes wrong, don't let her take me alive. I won't build another child for her to murder." The weight of that request settled over the van like a shroud. Hollis nodded. "We'll get you out, all of us." Miriam sent the files. Hollis downloaded them cross-referenced with her own intel. The plan took shape. San Francisco's lights grew brighter as darkness fell. Somewhere in that glittering sprawl, Seraphine Cross was waiting, dying, desperate, and they were walking straight into her domain. Garrett looked at the faces around him. Wren guilt-ridden but determined. Hollis driven by a sister's death and a journalist's rage. Celeste fighting for the right to simply exist. And himself. A mechanic who'd failed to protect his wife but refused to fail again. His voice cut through the engine noise. "Everyone understand the stakes. We do this, there's no walking away. Cross will use every resource to stop us." Hollis didn't hesitate. "I've got nothing left to lose." Wren's voice was quiet. "I owe Vivian this, and more." Celeste looked up at Garrett, blue eyes clear. "I just want to live, really live. Not as Unit 14, as Celeste." Garrett met each of their gazes in turn, then nodded. The van rolled on through the night, carrying 4 people toward a reckoning that would either free them all or bury them in the rubble of a billionaire's desperation. Ahead, Cross Tower pierced the sky like a black blade, windows glowing with cold light. Waiting. San Francisco rose from the fog like a fever dream glass, towers punching through low clouds, the bay reflecting steel-gray light that hurt to look at. Cross Tower dominated the skyline, 84 floors of black glass and chrome, a spear driven into the earth by someone who'd forgotten humility was supposed to matter. Garrett watched it grow larger through the van's grimy windshield, each mile closer, tightening the knot in his chest. They parked in a long-term garage 6 blocks away, the kind of place where cars sat for months gathering dust and parking tickets. Wren backed the van into a corner spot, killed the engine. The silence that followed felt heavy, pregnant with decisions that couldn't be unmade. Celeste's nosebleed had stopped an hour ago, but the blood still crusted her upper lip. Her skin had taken on a grayish tint like meat left too long in a freezer. She sat perfectly still, conserving energy, her breathing shallow and mechanical. Hollis checked her watch. 14 hours since the escape. 4 hours until critical failure. Garrett's stomach twisted. 4 hours to break into the most secure private building in California, navigate to a sub-basement server farm, upload evidence to the world, steal military-grade pharmaceuticals, and escape before a dying billionaire's private army killed them all. Simple. Wren pulled a duffel bag from under the driver's seat, unzipped it to reveal the tools of her trade flex cuffs, a spare service weapon, tactical flashlight, lockpick set. She checked the pistol's magazine, chambered around with practiced efficiency. Hollis produced her own bag. Laptop, portable hard drives, cable adapters, and something else, a small black device the size of a deck of cards. Garrett pointed. "What's that?" Hollis's smile was grim. "Signal jammer. 15-foot radius. Blocks everything from Wi-Fi to cell towers to GPS. Bought it from a guy who sells to cheating spouses and drug dealers. Highly illegal, extremely useful." They sat in the van as the afternoon died, waiting for darkness to provide cover. Garrett's mind kept circling back to Vivian, to the last argument, the one that ended with a slammed door and words he could never take back. He'd been drunk, angry about nothing that mattered. She'd been scared, desperate to make him understand the danger, and he'd called her paranoid. Celeste's voice pulled him back. "You're thinking about your wife." Garrett nodded, not trusting his voice. Celeste shifted, sitting up straighter despite the obvious pain. The memories I have of the original Celeste. There's one that keeps surfacing. She was scared of water. Terrified. Dr. Cross tried to fix it with therapy exposure treatment medication. Nothing worked. The fear was irrational, hardwired. She paused. I wonder sometimes if that's why she drowned. If some part of her gave up fighting the thing she'd been fighting her whole life. Garrett looked at her. Why are you telling me this? Celeste met his eyes. Because fear doesn't make you weak. Your wife was scared and she fought anyway. That's not weakness. That's everything. The words hit harder than Garrett expected. He looked away, blinking against the sudden burn in his eyes. Hollis closed her laptop. It's almost time. We should go over the plan one more time. Wren pulled out a printed schematic of Cross Tower courtesy of Hollis's hacking southeast corner service entrance. Ventilation system here. She tapped a point on the blueprint. 3:15 a.m. shift change, 4-minute window. Celeste gets us past biometric locks. We descend to sub-basement level 4. Server room is here. Garrett studied the map. What about guards? Wren's expression was hard. We avoid them if possible, neutralize them if not. These aren't cops. They're private security with kill authorizations. They won't hesitate. Hollis added, once we're in the server room, I need 5 minutes to upload everything. The dead man's switch goes live, files hit every major outlet simultaneously. After that, Cross can't bury the story even if she kills us. The even if hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Garrett turned to Celeste. And the enzymes, where are they kept? Celeste's voice was weak. Medical storage, sub-basement 3. 1 floor up from the servers. Refrigerated vault, biometric lock. I can access it. Wren folded the schematic. So we go up 1 floor after the upload, grab the enzymes. Then what? We can't exactly walk out the front door. Celeste coughed, the sound wet and wrong. There's an emergency exit on sub-basement 2, leads to a service tunnel that connects to the BART station 3 blocks away. Dr. Cross had it built for evacuation scenarios. It's not monitored during off hours. Hollis raised an eyebrow. How do you know that? Celeste tapped her temple. I was designed to be the perfect daughter. That includes memorizing every detail of Dr. Cross's properties in case of emergency. The knowledge is just there. Garrett checked his phone. The screen showed a dozen missed calls from unknown numbers, probably bounty hunters fishing for leads. He powered it off completely. The sun disappeared behind the buildings and the city's artificial twilight took over. Neon signs flickered to life. Traffic thinned. The financial district emptied as office workers fled to suburbs and lives that didn't include industrial espionage. At 2:47 a.m. they moved. The walk from the parking garage to Cross Tower took 12 minutes. They stayed in shadows, avoided street cameras, moved like ghosts through a city that never fully slept. Garrett carried Celeste on his back, her weight growing heavier with each block, her breathing more labored. The southeast corner of Cross Tower was exactly as the schematics promised. Service entrance, loading dock, ventilation grills set into the concrete wall at ground level. A single security camera covered the approach, mounted on a swivel 15 feet up. Hollis activated the jammer. The camera's red recording light flickered, died. Wren moved to the ventilation grill, pulled out her lockpick set. The grill was secured with industrial screws, but she had a portable drill, battery-powered, nearly silent. 4 screws, 30 seconds each. The grill came free. The shaft beyond was tight, barely 2 feet square, angled upward at 30 degrees. Designed for airflow, not human traffic. Celeste slid in first, moving with unsettling speed despite her deteriorating condition. Garrett followed, shoulders scraping metal, the space crushing and dark. Behind him, Wren and Hollis struggled to fit, both cursing under their breath. The shaft climbed 20 feet before leveling out. Garrett's arms burned his breath, coming in gasps, sweat soaking through his shirt despite the cold. Ahead, Celeste moved like a machine, tireless and efficient. They emerged in a maintenance corridor, industrial and ugly, lit by flickering fluorescent tubes that hummed with electrical current. The floor was concrete walls, bare metal. Pipes and conduits ran overhead like mechanical intestines. Celeste checked her internal clock. 3:13, 2 minutes to shift change. They ran. Corridor to stairwell. Stairwell descending into the building's guts. The stairs were steep, metal grating that rang with each footfall. Garrett's lungs burned. Beside him, Celeste stumbled, caught herself, kept moving. Sub-basement 1, 2, 3, 4. The stairwell door was marked Authorized Personnel Only. Biometric verification required. Celeste stepped forward. A scanner beside the door emitted a red beam swept across her eye. The mechanism whirred, processing. For 5 agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then the lock disengaged with a heavy clunk. The door swung inward. They entered the server room. It was vast. Rows of server towers stretched into darkness, blue LEDs blinking like bioluminescent deep-sea creatures. The temperature was Arctic refrigeration units working overtime to keep the machines from overheating. The air smelled like ozone and electricity. In the center of the room, isolated on a raised platform, sat the master terminal. Hollis made a beeline for it, laptop already out, cables in hand. Wren took up position by the door, weapon drawn, watching the corridor beyond. Garrett helped Celeste to a chair. She collapsed into it, skin-gray lips tinged blue. Her eyes were unfocused. Hollis's fingers flew across the keyboard. "I'm in. Uploading now." A progress bar appeared on screen. 0%, 5%, 12%. The upload was glacially slow. Files measured in terabytes, evidence of 13 murdered children and a conspiracy that spanned continents. Garrett watched the percentage climb, each digit feeling like a small victory. 23%, 31%. Celeste's hand found his. "If this doesn't work, if I don't make it." Garrett squeezed back. "You'll make it. We didn't come this far to lose now." Her smile was sad. "You don't know that." He didn't, but hope was all they had left, so he held on to it with both hands. 47%, 56%. The lights in the server room flickered. Wren's voice was sharp. "We've got company." Garrett spun. The corridor beyond the door was no longer empty. Figures moved in the darkness, 4, 6, 8 of them. Security team heavily armed, advancing with tactical precision. Wren aimed through the doorway. "Hollis, how long?" Hollis didn't look up. 63%, 3 minutes, maybe 4. Wren fired. The shot was deafening in the enclosed space, muzzle flash lighting the corridor like lightning. One of the advancing figures dropped. The others scattered, taking cover behind support pillars. Return fire erupted. Bullets pinged off metal, shattered glass punched through drywall. Wren ducked back, slammed the door shut, engaged the lock. It wouldn't hold long. Garrett looked around, mind racing. The server room had no other exits. They were trapped in a metal box with one door and an army on the other side. 72%? 79%? Something slammed into the door. Heavy, deliberate, a battering ram. The door held. Barely. Another impact. The frame groaned. Wren braced against the door boots, digging into the floor using her body weight to buy seconds. 84%? 91%. The door burst open. Wren went flying, hit the floor, hard rolled. Came up shooting. Dropped one man, clipped another. But they kept coming. Cade Brennan led the charge. The scar through his eyebrow was stark in the server room's blue light, his expression carved from stone. He carried a tactical shotgun, matte black, loaded with breaching rounds. He aimed at Hollis. Garrett moved without thinking. Threw himself between the shotgun and the journalist. Felt the impact like a truck hitting his chest. Pain exploded through his ribs, white-hot and total. He hit the floor. Couldn't breathe. The world narrowed to a pinpoint of agony. Through the haze he heard Hollis, 98%, come on, come on. Cade chambered another round. Celeste stood, unsteady, swaying but upright. Her voice was cold, mechanical, utterly devoid of emotion. Stop. Cade paused. Celeste raised her hand. The platinum bracelet flared with light. Every screen in the server room went white. Every machine began to scream, hard drives, frying circuits, overloading, $30 million of equipment dying in seconds. But the upload hit 100%. Hollis slammed her laptop shut. It's done! Files are live! Cade's face twisted with rage. He swung the shotgun toward Celeste. Wren shot him. Center mass. Once, twice. He staggered, dropped to one knee. But he didn't go down. Body armor, military grade. Cade raised the shotgun again, finger on the trigger. A new voice cut through the chaos, amplified godlike in its calm. Stand down, Cade. Everyone froze. The far wall of the server room wasn't a wall. It was a window. One-way glass hidden in shadow. Now it lit up, revealing the observation room beyond. Seraphine Cross stood on the other side. white trench coat, oxygen mask hanging around her neck, eyes locked on Celeste. She looked worse than before, thinner, paler, the cancer eating her from the inside at visible speed. But she was smiling. Her voice came through speakers embedded in the ceiling. "Hello, Unit 14. Welcome home." Celeste's defiance crumbled. She stumbled, caught herself on the edge of a server rack. "No, you can't. The evidence is public. Everyone knows." Seraphine's smile widened. "Do they let me show you something?" She raised a tablet. The screen mirrored to the monitors throughout the server room. News feeds, dozens of them, all showing the same thing. Headlines: Cross Biotech servers hacked. Fake news campaign exposed. Talking heads on cable news. The fabricated documents appear to be part of a sophisticated disinformation attack. FBI statement. "We're investigating a conspiracy to defame Dr. Seraphine Cross using deepfake technology and falsified records." Stock ticker. Cross Biotech shares up 12% on sympathy trading. Hollis's face went white. "No, that's impossible. I uploaded verified source documents, cryptographically signed, unfakeable." Seraphine's laugh was soft, pitying. "Ms. Bennett, I've spent 40 years building this empire. Do you truly believe I don't have contingencies? My PR team has been preparing for this scenario since Project Nightingale began. Every journalist who received your files also received a comprehensive debunking packet. Every government official in my pocket is calling it a hoax. Every expert I've funded is questioning the authenticity." She paused, letting it sink in. "The truth doesn't matter if no one believes it." Garrett tried to stand, couldn't. The pain in his chest was too great, breathing too difficult. Broken ribs may be worse. Seraphine's attention shifted to him. "Mr. Ashford, I underestimated you. That won't happen again." She nodded to Cade. He stood, reloaded the shotgun. Seraphine continued, "You've cost me $3 billion in equipment damage, 14 hours of critical project time, and my patience." She turned back to Celeste. "But you're home now, and we're going to finish what we started." Celeste shook her head, tears streaming. "I won't let you. I'll fight. I'll—" Seraphine pressed a button on her tablet. Celeste's eyes rolled back. She collapsed, convulsing foam at her lips. Garrett screamed, "What did you do?" Seraphine's voice was clinical. "Kill switch. Built into her neural architecture. I can activate it remotely anytime she's within range of Cross Tower's network." She checked her watch. "The seizure will stop in 30 seconds. Then we'll proceed to the transfer chamber. Unit 14's consciousness will be erased. My consciousness will be uploaded, and I will live forever." Wren aimed her pistol at the glass. "I'll kill you first." Seraphine didn't flinch. "That glass is 3 inches of polycarbonate, rated to stop 50 caliber rounds, but please try. It's been a dull evening." The seizure stopped. Celeste lay still, breathing, but unconscious. Cade's men moved in rifles trained. Garrett, Wren, and Hollis were pulled apart, hands zip-tied behind their backs. Cade lifted Celeste's limp body, carried her toward a service elevator at the far end of the room. Seraphine's voice followed them. "Mr. Ashford, you'll be permitted to watch. Professional courtesy. You deserve to see what your wife died trying to prevent." The elevator descended. Sub-basement 5, a level not on any official blueprint. The doors opened onto something out of a nightmare. The transfer chamber was vast, cathedral-ceilinged, lit by harsh white surgical lights. In the center sat 2 medical chairs, elaborate contraptions of chrome and leather and circuitry. Between them, a massive cylindrical device covered in cables and cooling tubes, the consciousness transfer engine. Technicians in white coats moved with practiced efficiency, preparing the equipment. Screens flickered to life, showing brain scans, neural maps, data streams that looked like the inside of a mind laid bare. Cade strapped Celeste into one chair. She stirred, eyes fluttering open, but the drugs in her system kept her docile. Seraphine entered from a side door. She'd removed the trench coat. Underneath, she wore a hospital gown, her body's skeletal IV ports visible in her arms. She looked like she was already dying, just stubbornly refusing to finish. She settled into the second chair. Technicians attached electrodes to her temples, her neck, her chest. The machinery hummed to life. A screen above the chairs displayed 2 neural maps, one labeled Unit 14, the other S. Cross. Seraphine met Garrett's eyes across the room. "Your wife stood exactly where you're standing now. Watched Unit 7 in this same chair. She begged me to stop. Offered everything, money, silence, her own life in exchange. Her voice was almost wistful. I told her the same thing I'm telling you. Progress demands sacrifice. One life to save billions. The math is simple. Garrett's voice was raw. You're not saving anyone. You're murdering a child to escape death like a coward. Seraphine smiled. Call it what you like. In 10 minutes I'll be young again, and you'll be nothing but a footnote in my very, very long life. She nodded to the lead technician. Begin the sequence. The machines screamed to life. The transfer cylinder glowed with inner light pulsing in time with heartbeats, 2 hearts, soon to be 1. On screen, consciousness transfer initiated, 0%. Celeste's body went rigid. Her eyes opened wide, unseeing, fixed on the ceiling. Garrett struggled against the zip ties, against Cade's iron grip, against the helplessness that threatened to swallow him whole. The progress bar climbed 5%, 12%, 19%. Hollis's voice was desperate. Someone will believe the evidence. It just takes time. You can't suppress the truth forever. Seraphine's laugh was bitter. Ms. Bennett, I've suppressed worse. The truth is whatever I say it is because I have the money to make it so. 27%, 34%. Wren looked at Garrett, and in her eyes he saw something he hadn't seen before. Resignation. Defeat. The same look she'd worn at Vivian's funeral, standing in the rain while they lowered the casket. But Garrett wasn't ready to give up. His mind raced, searching for options for leverage for anything. And then he saw it. The oxygen tank. Seraphine's portable oxygen tank sitting beside her chair, connected via tubes to her nose, keeping her alive long enough for the transfer to complete. Garrett's voice came out calm, measured. You're wrong about one thing. Seraphine's eyes flicked toward him. Oh. Garrett met her gaze. The truth doesn't need everyone to believe it. It just needs one person to act on it. He threw his weight backward hard. Cade wasn't expecting it, lost his grip for half a second. Half a second was enough. Garrett twisted, brought his knee up into Cade's groin. The bigger man grunted, doubled over. Garrett spun hands, still zip-tied, and ran. Not away. Toward Seraphine. Guns came up. Cade shouted. Technicians scattered. Garrett lowered his shoulder and slammed into the oxygen tank with every ounce of strength he had left. The tank toppled, hit the floor. The valve sheared off. Oxygen under pressure, explosive when concentrated, met the electrical sparks from damaged equipment. The blast wasn't huge, didn't need to be. Fire erupted across the floor, racing along oxygen-rich air, consuming everything it touched. Alarms shrieked, sprinklers activated, but the flames were chemical, laughing at water. The transfer sequence stuttered. 41%, 39%, error, 35%. Seraphine screamed, no restore power, complete the upload. But the machines were dying, overheating, failing. Garrett hit the floor hard, zip ties finally snapping against the impact. He crawled toward Celeste's chair, ignoring the pain, ignoring the flames licking at his clothes. Reached the chair, found the cable connecting Celeste's neural port to the transfer engine. Ripped it out. Celeste gasped. Her body arched. The screen above showed her neural map fragmenting, then stabilizing. Still there, still herself. But Seraphine's map was different. Caught between bodies neither here nor there, consciousness bleeding out into digital void. The progress bar reversed. 33%, 28%, 19%. Seraphine's physical body convulsed in the chair. What have you done? Garrett's voice was ice. Gave you exactly what you wanted. You're in the system now. All of you. Celeste's eyes focused. She looked at Garrett, understanding blooming. Her hands moved across a nearby console, fingers flying despite the pain, despite the deterioration. Code scrolled across screens. Firewalls fell. Access granted. She whispered, I'm uploading you, Dr. Cross. Every piece, every memory, every thought. Not into me, into an isolated server, a cage made of ones and zeros. Seraphine tried to scream. Couldn't. Her consciousness was fragmenting, being pulled in directions that shouldn't exist. The progress bar hit 0. Transfer complete. Subject isolated. Seraphine's physical body went limp. Eyes open, staring at nothing. Brain activity flatlined. But on a screen nearby, data flickered. A consciousness trapped, looping. Experiencing the same moment over and over. The moment her granddaughter drowned, the moment she looked away, the moment she failed. Forever. Celeste pulled the remaining cables from her neck, stumbled out of the chair, collapsed into Garrett's arms. Her voice was weak. "Is she?" Garrett looked at the empty shell that used to be Seraphine Cross. "She's gone. Alive, but gone. Trapped in her own worst memory." Cade stood frozen, weapon lowered, staring at his employer's vacant eyes. Whatever loyalty he'd had died with the woman who'd paid for it. He dropped the shotgun, raised his hands. Wren kicked it away, kept her pistol trained on the ground. Now. The building's fire alarm was deafening. Sprinklers soaked everything. Emergency lights flashed red. Hollis grabbed her laptop. "We need to move. Fire department will be here in minutes." Garrett lifted Celeste. She was light, too. Light, her body consuming itself from the inside. Wren looked at the medical storage access on the wall panel. "The enzymes. We still need them." Celeste pointed weakly at a door. "Through there. Storage vault. Use my retinal scan." They ran. Through smoke and steam and chaos. The vault door opened to Celeste's eye. Inside, refrigerated units lined the walls labeled with codes and serial numbers. Celeste's finger trembled as she pointed. "NSN 447, blue vials. Take all of them." Hollis grabbed the case. 6 vials, each labeled with warnings in 3 languages. They ran again. Up 1 level, 2. Found the emergency exit Celeste had mentioned. A tunnel, dark and narrow, smelling of mold and neglect. The tunnel stretched for 3 blocks, ending in a service access within the BART station. They emerged into fluorescent light and the smell of ozone, just another group of late-night travelers, disheveled and dirty. No one looked twice. They took the first train. Didn't care where it went, just away. In a bathroom on the train, Hollis administered the first injection. The needle went into Celeste's port with practiced ease. The girl gasped, color returning to her cheeks almost immediately. Garrett held her, while her body stabilized, while the enzymes did their work, while life decided whether to stay or go. It stayed. Celeste opened her eyes, smiled, whispered, "Thank you." Garrett's voice broke. "Thank Vivian. She started this. We just finished it." They rode the train to Oakland, switched to another heading north, kept moving, kept changing vehicles, kept one step ahead of pursuers who were suddenly disorganized, leaderless, unsure. Hollis monitored news feeds on her phone. The story was everywhere now. Cross Tower fire, mysterious explosion, CEO Seraphine. Cross found comatose questions about what happened in the sub-basement, and slowly, carefully, journalists who'd dismissed the evidence before started asking new questions, started looking at the documents again, started believing. 3 days later, they reached a cabin in the Cascade Mountains, off-grid, surrounded by pine trees and silence. Iris pulled back, looked at Celeste. "Who's 100? Iris pulled back, looked at Celeste. "Who's she?" Garrett smiled. "This is Celeste. She's going to stay with us for a while, if that's okay." Iris studied the other girl with the brutal honesty of 7-year-olds. "Do you like horses?" Celeste nodded. Iris grinned. "Then we're gonna be friends." 6 months passed. The congressional hearings were brutal. Cross biotech executives faced criminal charges. Assets were frozen, then liquidated. The Vivian Ashford Act passed with bipartisan support, sweeping regulations on bioengineering, AI rights, consciousness transfer research. Seraphine Cross's body remained in a medical facility, brain dead but technically alive. Doctors said she could persist indefinitely, caught between worlds. No one petitioned to disconnect life support. Some punishments required keeping the monster alive. Cade Brennan turned state's evidence. Testified about kill orders, cover-ups 13 children who'd been decommissioned like broken equipment. In exchange, he got 20 years instead of life. Wren took early retirement from the Seattle PD. The corruption she'd participated in even peripherally haunted her. But she was trying. Therapy amends, showing up for family. Hollis won a Pulitzer for the Cross expose, used the prize money to start a nonprofit investigating corporate bioethics violations. And Garrett stood in a cemetery in Seattle, rain falling soft and steady. Vivian's headstone had been replaced. The old one said nothing about how she died. The new one told the truth. Vivian Ashford. Hero mother, truth seeker. She fought so others could live. Iris placed flowers at the base. Daisies, Vivian's favorite. Beside her, Celeste added a small stuffed rabbit, new clean, but identical to the one she'd clutched in that alley months ago. Iris looked up. "Daddy, do you think Mommy knows about everything?" Garrett's voice was thick. "Yeah, sweetheart, I think she knows, and I think she's proud." Celeste's voice was soft. "Mrs. Ashford, thank you for trying to save me. I'm sorry you died for it." Garrett put a hand on her shoulder. "She didn't die for you. She died for the truth, and the truth set you free." They stood in silence for a moment. 3 people bound by loss and survival and the stubborn refusal to let evil win. Then Iris tugged on Garrett's sleeve. "Can we go home? Hollis is making dinner and she said we're having cake." Garrett looked at Celeste. She'd been legally adopted 3 months ago after a Supreme Court ruling declared her a sentient being with full human rights, the first of her kind, a precedent. She smiled. Still had the platinum bracelet, but it was inactive now, just jewelry, a reminder of where she'd come from and what she'd overcome. They walked to the car. Wren was waiting, leaning against the hood, looking more at peace than Garrett had seen her in years. The drive back to the cabin took 4 hours. They talked, laughed, told stories. Iris insisted on terrible knock-knock jokes. Celeste explained quantum mechanics in terms a 7-year-old could understand. Wren sang off-key to classic rock on the radio. It felt like family. At the cabin, Hollis had dinner ready. The table was set for 5, a chosen family built from wreckage and determination. They ate, celebrated small things, survived another day. After dinner, Garrett found Hollis on the porch watching the sun set behind the mountains. She'd been coming around more often, staying longer. The space between them was closing slowly, respectfully. She handed him a beer. "I got a call today, reporter from Boston, asking questions about a girl who showed up at a hospital there. 6 years old, no fingerprints, platinum bracelet with a serial number." Garrett's blood ran cold. "Unit 15. Hollis nodded. "Dr. Miriam Calloway is already on a plane. She thinks she can help. Find the girl. Protect her. Maybe save her before anyone else has to die." Garrett looked through the window at Iris and Celeste playing chess by the fireplace. 2 kids who should never have met, now inseparable. His voice was quiet. "It's not over, is it? The fight?" Hollis took a sip of her beer. "Evil never stops trying, so neither can we." Garrett thought about Vivian, about the choice she'd made knowing it would cost her everything, about the legacy she'd left not in possessions or money, but in the truth she'd refused to bury. Character is what you do when nobody's watching. She'd proven that. Being a father means teaching right from wrong even when it costs everything. He was learning that. One honest person can change the world. They just done it. And family isn't blood. It's who shows up when the world's on fire. Garrett raised his beer to the sunset, to the mountains, to the memory of a woman who'd been braver than he'd understood. His voice was steady. Then we keep fighting. Inside, Iris called out, "Daddy, Celeste beat me again. She's too smart." Celeste's laugh echoed bright and genuine and alive. "I'll teach you my strategy. Then we'll be even." Garrett smiled. Hollis slipped her hand into his. They stood together watching the last light fade, knowing tomorrow would bring new battles. But tonight they had this: peace, safety, home. And sometimes that was enough.